Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today we're diving right into a seriously provocative playbook for the future. We're looking at Peter Thiel's deeply influential book, 0 to 1. So if you've ever wanted to understand the underlying mechanics of how revolutionary startups are built and exactly how these massive world-altering technological leaps actually happen, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to map out these core concepts visually so you can really grasp them and, more importantly, retain them.
Okay, here's our agenda, a quick roadmap of the contrarian mind. We've got a 5-step deconstruction today. First, 0 to 1 progress. Then, rejecting the lottery ticket. Third, the rule of power law. Fourth, uncovering hidden secrets. And finally, building the startup tribe. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, 0 to 1 progress. To kick things off, we actually have to completely redefine what progress means in our modern world.
So the absolute crucial point here is understanding the stark difference between copying something that already works versus doing something that nobody has literally ever done before. Horizontal or extensive progress means going from 1 to n. It's like taking one typewriter and just building 100 of them. But vertical or intensive progress, that means making a massive leap, going from 0 to 1. That's taking a typewriter and inventing a word processor. It's entirely fresh, it's strange, and it requires a completely new way of thinking.
At a macro level, if you plot this out on a horizontal axis, it gives us a single word: globalization. Think about China's 20-year plan to become like the United States is today. They're basically just copying things that already worked in the developed world, right? Moving straight along that horizontal line. It's taking what works somewhere and just trying to make it work everywhere.
But when we shoot upward on the vertical axis, making that 0 to 1 leap, that is where we get technology. And Thiel makes a pretty chilling point about this. In a world of scarce resources, globalization without new technology is completely unsustainable. I mean, if we just spread old ways of creating wealth globally, it's going to result in massive environmental devastation. We desperately need that vertical leap to actually build a better future.
And this brings us to a massive pattern interrupt. This is the ultimate contrarian question you really must ask yourself if you want to find the future. Are you ready? What important truth do very few people agree with you on? It sounds so simple, right? But it is incredibly hard to answer. It requires brilliant thinking to actually find that truth, and then immense courage to stand by it when literally everyone else thinks you're wrong.
Now, once you actually have a good answer to that contrarian question, you're going to need a vehicle to pursue it, and you have to forget the traditional business definitions here. A startup is actually the largest group of people you can convince of a plan to build a different future. So a startup's most important strength isn't just that it's small, it's the space that being small affords for totally new, uncorrupted thinking.
All right, moving on to Section 2, rejecting the lottery ticket. Let's see how this builds into dismantling the accepted wisdom that honestly plagues most modern businesses today.
We have got to reject the popular myth, the one peddled by authors like Malcolm Gladwell, and even some incredibly successful founders, that success is just a massive lottery ticket. People love to attribute their triumphs to some incredible planetary alignment or a patchwork of lucky breaks. But really think about it. If success is primarily just blind chance, then trying to learn about startups is fundamentally worthless, isn't it?
Furthermore, Thiel argues that we must abandon the buzzwords of the lean startup methodology. After the dot-com crash, the whole dogma became make only small incremental advances, stay lean, stay flexible, don't plan too much, and just run these agnostic experiments. But look, making small changes to things that already exist, that might get you a slightly better product, sure. But unplanned iteration will absolutely not take you from 0 to 1. Darwinian evolution just isn't the right model for business.
So instead of treating business like a game of chance or some random mutation, you have to seize definite mastery over a small part of the world through intelligent design. Honestly, a business is the strangest place of all to expect success without a bold plan to actually make it happen. You are not a lottery ticket. You've got to design your future.
Which leads us to Section 3, the rule of power law. To execute that bold plan, we first need to understand the fundamental mathematical reality governing our universe.
Now, whether Einstein actually called compound interest the most powerful force in the universe or not, the core truth here remains. You can never, ever underestimate the sheer scale of exponential growth. Money makes money, and when you look at how the world actually functions, it does not operate on a nice, neat, normal distribution curve.
No, it operates on a power law. Following economist Vilfredo Pareto's famous discovery, where 20% of the pea pods in his garden produced 80% of the peas, we have to realize this stark pattern is all around us. Venture capitalists are acutely aware of this. A tiny, select few companies in their portfolio will attain exponentially greater value than all the other companies combined. For you, this means you have to aim your efforts at an idea that has the absolute potential to be that singular, exponentially massive success.
Section 4. Uncovering hidden secrets. So, the big question, how do we actually find these singular, world-changing companies? If it's not luck and it's not copying, where do we look?
Well, we look for secrets. Imagine a spectrum. On the far left, you have conventions. These are things that are easy, things everyone already knows. There's no edge there. On the far right, you have impossible mysteries, like string theory, things that might literally be impossible to figure out or test. But the sweet spot? It's right in the middle, the secrets. These are things that are hard to do, but they are doable. They are important truths about the world that are currently unknown or completely unsuspected by the masses. Every truly valuable company is built upon uncovering one of these hard secrets.
And finally, Section 5, Building the Startup Tribe. Let's talk about execution. Once you've uncovered a hard secret, you need the right human element to bring it to life.
Startups require a truly intense level of dedication. From the outside, your team shouldn't just look like an efficient matching of diverse talents on some HR spreadsheet. They should look almost like a branded tribe, wearing what Thiel calls a startup uniform. Everyone at your company should be wildly different from the outside world, but different in exactly the same way as each other, fiercely devoted to your unique mission. The early PayPal team is just a perfect example of this. Co-founder Max Levchin made sure his team was as personally similar as possible. I mean, they didn't care what you looked like or where you came from, but internally, they were a tribe of nerds who all loved science fiction. They literally passed around the book Cryptonomicon, and they shared an absolute obsession with creating a digital currency to replace the US dollar. You really need that shared, almost fanatical obsession for the startup to survive its early days.
But here is the absolutely critical counterbalance. While culturally you should be an identical tribe, on the inside, every single employee must have a singular, sharply distinct role. You should give each person literally just one thing to do. Why? Because job assignments are really about relationships between employees. If roles overlap, people are going to compete and fight. By making everyone sharply distinguished by their work, the startup can move incredibly fast without breaking down into internal conflict.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer today. I want to leave you with this final, massive challenge to stare down. As you reject the lottery ticket, as you hunt for those hard secrets right in the middle of the spectrum, ask yourself, what valuable company is nobody building? Remember, the future won't just happen on its own. It is entirely up to you to work to create it today. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.